Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Odyssey, the podcast where we explore the highs and the lows of entrepreneurship, featuring the bold and the brave who dare to dream. Every episode, we dive deep into the strategies that work, the challenges that teach, and the moments that change everything. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, these are the insights and experiences you need to fuel your own Odyssey.
Hi, I'm Brandon Moore, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur's Odyssey. Today, we're going to talk about something that's not on the e-hero's journey per se, but is an essential part of being an entrepreneur, and that is the call to lead. Sometimes at your job as an employee, you might have just done what you're told. You go to your work, you clock in, do what you're told, you go home, and that's it. Some of you guys may actually have had jobs where you go and you lead a team, but you didn't think much of your leadership, or maybe you don't think that you had much to offer in that situation. And the call to lead is like that. The call to lead as an entrepreneur is when you step off from having just you in the business to having other employees. You've got to lead them. You've got to lead the business. And as an entrepreneur employee or an entrepreneur that's self-employed, the call to lead is an essential part of your growth and your maturity as a business owner, entrepreneur, as an e-hero. So let's get into it and let's talk about what it means to lead. In Star Wars, we saw how at first Luke was just foolish. He took the binding braces off of the droids, and so they got away. He complained to his uncle about having to work another summer or season or whatever it was. He just was a whiny little boy. And then when this opportunity came, he even, and we talked about it earlier, he even thought, hey, maybe I should just go back to my uncle's and live there. I'm not a space traveler. I'm not somebody that's going to go on this journey to save a princess. And then Obi-Wan told him, yes, you're supposed to. This is what you're supposed to do. Gave him the lightsaber. It was a monumental moment, and things changed. And then later we see a pivot in who Luke was, when they actually went to the Death Star, disguised as stormtroopers, and Luke began to lead. Now, he did lead them to a garbage chute, but we're not going to talk about that. Leaders make mistakes. It happens. But he stepped up. He began to lead. So now, what do we have to do as an employee, as an entrepreneur employee, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner? How do you decide and how do you determine to take that step into lead? One of the first things that you do as an entrepreneur, as a leader, is that you see what you do as responsibility and not as a set of tasks. When you as an employee might work for somebody else and you go and you just do a bunch of tasks, are you really adding value to the business? Are you adding value to the people that are in leadership? When you decide that this is my responsibility, you take a step forward. You take that step that says, you know what? I'm going to lead in this. I'm going to lead in this area that I've been given responsibility. The best model and the best role of a leader is the servant leader. And Jesus said, know how the religious leaders lord authority over you, but it's not going to be like that for you. The one who's going to be the first is going to be last. And what he was saying is, you need to learn to serve to be a leader. You need to learn to serve the people, either your clients, your customers, or serve your employees to be a leader. Leading is influence. It's influencing your employees, it's influencing your clients, it's influencing your competition. You might lead in an industry by trying new things, new ways to serve, new distribution methods for your products. You might lead by training your employees, not just in how to do their job, but how to be leaders. When I was the managing partner for my CPA firm, my biggest role, my purpose in life was to help those employees become the best versions of themselves. That was what was important to me, that I helped them develop professionally and develop personally. And as a leader, we're called to not just see our destiny met. As leaders, we're called to see those around us and their destiny met. If I'm talking to an employee and I can see that they're called to so much more than even is at my company, I'm not going to hold them back. And they may not be ready to take the next step, maybe get that degree, get that certification or get that, but I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to encourage them in that to where if I only have them for a couple of years, awesome. But by the time they leave my employment, they're going to be a better leader. They're going to be ready for their next step in their destiny. And if you think generationally, if you think long-term, if you think as a servant, you're going to be able to do that too. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the books that I've written. This one is called The E-Hero's Journey. It's the first book that I wrote, although the second book that I published. This book is one of the books that we're going to go through on this podcast, but it will really help you in your journey as an entrepreneur. It's just an overview, but it talks about some challenges that you might incur and help you through those challenges. The next book that I wrote is called The E-Hero's Guide to Real Estate Investing. This book is an overview about real estate investing. We've always believed that we should have a second cash flow method, a separate revenue, one or more lines of revenue. For us, real estate was an easy choice because we had mentors that were in real estate. And so we started our real estate journey in the same year I graduated in 2000. And that year we bought 3 houses. We got up to about 110 houses. We've sold a bunch since then, but now we're about at 50 or so. But this book will help you start that journey and help you build up your real estate portfolio. This third book is called The Beginning of Wealth, and this is how these 7 wealth behaviors will help you reach financial independence. I wrote this book in about 3 months. This is something that's in me so strong, and I didn't know it until I started writing it. There are 7 behaviors that I talk about, and the first 4 have nothing to do with money. They have everything to do with being a steward, with being disciplined, with having a vision, having focus. So this book could be great for you and for your friends or for your kids if you're my age. So all of these books I wrote with my kids in mind, my adult children, because these are all books that you can read as you start your journey. And by the time that you finish your journey, you'll be very satisfied with how things worked out. So there they are. They're all on Amazon, and you can also get them on my website at brandonkmoore.com. As a servant leader, there are lots of things that you can do and that you need to do. And some of the things I talked about in my book about leadership and how you do it as an employee, but also how you do it as a business owner. And one of the things that you need to do is innovate. As a business owner, don't be afraid to take some risks. Don't be afraid to say, okay, it's never been done this way, but we're going to do it this way. And in 2007, maybe 2005, before firms went paperless, I took my firm paperless. I wanted to be, and that's when I also decided to go into other locations. And I didn't want to be carrying around paper files from one city to another to help clients. So we decided to make the move towards being a paperless office. And we created systems and processes in order to when we receive client documents, how they were scanned and how they were documented and uploaded to our document management system. We created a process of review to where a staff accountant would prepare the return and then tick mark the file. And used to be, as a new accountant, sometimes thought I was in crafts because we would use red and blue pencils and make tick marks in the file. And then we use tape and scissors and paste things to the file. And we do a calculator tape and tear it off and then paste it right into the file. And at the end of it, it's being in kindergarten, you have the construction paper and all these nice things pasted onto it. But then when we went paperless, we had to figure out, okay, we can't write on the thing. How are we going to get tick marks onto that PDF? How are we going to move in that direction? And so we had to create ways to do it that hadn't really been done before, hadn't been thought of before, because there weren't a lot of people. I couldn't go to somebody and say, how do you do this as a paperless company? There weren't a lot of people doing that, and definitely not in San Angelo, Texas, where my firm was located. So innovation is one way that you as a business leader can step into that leadership by not being afraid to innovate and take your company where it hadn't been before. What's another way? Another way is by study. You personally learning new skills. One of the things that I did towards the end of my CPA firm before I sold it, like 4 or 5 years prior to selling I could see that the industry was changing. I could see that more and more people were doing their own tax return, buying software, hiring quick and fast return people that use really inexpensive software. I could see that AI was coming into play and that maybe that was going to take care of some of tax return preparation process. And I knew that as a CPA firm, we had to offer more than just preparing a tax return. And so I could do tax planning, but one of the things that I wanted to offer my clients was business advisory work, not just about how to pay less in tax, but how can I get that business to generate more revenue? How can I help that business to reduce its costs? How can I help that business to operate more lean? How can I help that business go to the next level in gross sales or a number of employees? And so I started to study business advisory. I went to several online certification points and chose one called MindShop. It's a company out of Australia. Shout out to MindShop. They're a great bunch of people, led by Dr. Chris Mason, who's brilliant in business advisory and in behavioral finance. Just a brilliant guy. His son James is also brilliant and manages and directs the company. But what they did is they offered courses on business advisory, and I just ate it up. I tried to do 2 or 3 of those courses per week. I would just burn through as many as I could. I think they have 80 or so courses that you can take. And in a year's period, I think I did maybe 20 to 30. I don't remember, but I did a bunch of them. And you only had to do, I think, 10 to 12 of them to get certification as a accredited MindShop facilitator. And so I did get that designation, but really the most important thing to me was I had something I could offer my clients to be able to move their company forward, and what I did, I started helping my current employees. I started using their business advisory methods to help my employees become better employees, to help my employees become better tax accountants, to help my company grow in revenue and reduce its costs. As a leader of your company, don't stay stagnant. Move forward, not just in trying to get sales, but in knowledge and understanding. If there's another certification, if there's a class that you can take, if there's a podcast that you can listen to, do it. In my book, The Beginning of Wealth, Reach Financial Independence Through the 7 Wealth Behaviors, I talk about that leaders are readers, that you need to consume information, and that a lot of leaders that I know, they'll read at least 1 book a week, some of them even more. And that's a big goal. It's a big standard to have, but it is possible. Also, I talk about in that book about maybe setting up some podcasts that you listen to 1 or 2 podcasts a week or more, that you look at some blogs, check out some blogs for your industry, so that you stay on top of your industry, that you stay on top of your game. There are tons of books about relationships and management that will help you manage your employees. There are tons of books about running lean and reducing costs and increasing your sales. There are a lot of books on having a vision for your company, putting that vision into words with your values and your mission statement and your goals. So there are tons of resources out there, which when I started in business, a lot of that wasn't available. We had audio books, but we didn't have all the podcasts. We didn't have all the access to what's on Google and what's online today. Take advantage of the information highway that's out there and really take advantage of the resources that are available and manage that information and resource and technology to grow internally, grow yourself and develop in those areas. Some books that I think are definitely must reads. If you get a book by Jim Collins, you've got the right book. The Good to Great, Built to Last, Great by Choice, How the Mighty Fall. All of those books on business are not just good business books, but they're empirical studies. He's got data upon data that proves some of the points that he's making. He doesn't really make points without the proof. Anything by Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Advantage, the Silos book. There's tons of them that he does. He's got a new book called Six Working Genius, which I think is fantastic on building teams and helping teams work together to accomplish their mission and their goal. There's so many resources out there, and I just to encourage you, I have a you should read list on my website if you want to download that. It's got a few books on how to write novels, how to write books, but most of it are business books, relationship books that'll help you be a better manager and a better business owner. So really, and when you read those books, don't just read them to read them, but read them to apply. Now, as a leader, you can read books and really give your team whiplash, because every book you read, you want to implement. And I discourage that. Read a book and then meditate on it before you decide to implement anything into your company. I have a story about two different CEOs, one who took one book and beat his staff upside the head with it and said, do this, whereas the other CEO decided to read the book and then with his executive team read the book together and went through the book together, and then they did that with their team. And so then by the time it flushed down to the lowest levels, then any new person onboarding would read that book. And that's a better way to implement some of the strategies and things that are in those books, is to go over it slowly and do a slow, steady implementation rather than just trying to jerk everybody into a system or a process because you thought it was a good idea this week. And then next week, the next book that you read, you're going to do the same thing and everybody's going to have a hard left and get whiplash from it. We don't want that. When you decide to be a leader, they can be scary. I was a young person. I was probably 22 years old when I decided to go on a trip to Mardi Gras to do witnessing, to do some mission work, local mission work to the people of Louisiana who had come to Mardi Gras. We were going to pass out some pamphlets, they call them tracts, that tell people about Jesus. Some people that go there for that purpose, you do street preaching, which I don't think that is very effective, but some people still do it. So anyway, I go there, I'm with a team of ladies that are from my church, and then maybe one or two other guys that are there. And on the first night that we're there, one of the leaders gave me charge over a group of Women's Aglow. So it's about 8 to 10 ladies and then me. And I said, where do you want to go to pass out tracts? And they said, let's go down Bourbon Street. And I went down Bourbon Street, which, by the way, is the most active street during Mardi Gras. That's where all the beads happen, if you know what those do and are about. And that's where all the drinking and carousing happens. And it was a mess. And I regretted making that turn. So quickly we got out of there. The next day I go in with my team, the team from my church. And as we're walking down the street, we get body to body. I'm serious. There was no moving. And we were just so close in there. And then the crowd started swaying. And some people, it would lift them up, the shorter folks, it would lift them up off their feet as the crowd is swaying. As we're swaying, eventually it broke through. And so we got through that street and that mass of people and got up on the perimeter of all the excitement. And one of my team members was having an anxiety attack because she had never felt more claustrophobic than that moment. Another one of the team members said that she had been groped by some of the people. And so that was one of my earliest leadership debacles as I took a team to Mardi Gras. So again, leaders make mistakes, it happens, but that doesn't mean that you stop developing. That doesn't mean that you stop working towards being a better leader. The choice to lead, it can be delayed sometimes, and sometimes it can be completely avoided. If you're avoiding the leadership that God's called you to, you're avoiding your destiny. If you're avoiding, and people avoid leadership for selfish reasons. They avoid it because they don't want to be responsible for other people, or they don't want to, maybe it requires additional time during the week. But you have to remember that you're called to something. And if God is calling you into leadership, and I believe that all of us are called in some form of leadership or not, or others, one way or another, we're called into leadership. If God is calling you and you're not doing it, then you're not fulfilling your destiny. But more than that, you could be hindering somebody else from fulfilling theirs. And I just encourage you, take on that mantle. Take on the destiny that God has for you. Decide to be a leader. Decide to choose continuous improvement for yourself and to help others. Now, I'm not saying that you go and tell everybody else how they're supposed to act and what they're supposed to do, but the way you lead, and you'll read it in some of those leadership books, is by serving, and serving others will help them get to their destiny as well. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. The Call to Lead, the Entrepreneur's Odyssey is not just the book, but we're spending some time on the chapters of the book, the e-hero's journey. Thanks for joining us. Please connect with us. Please let us know if this has been a blessing to you. If it is, also share it with somebody else. We'd love for you to connect with us, share, comment. Please let us know what's going on. And if you've got some topics, things that you want us to talk about in the next upcoming podcast, please let us know. Drop us a line, drop us an email, drop us a comment. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Odyssey. We hope today's journey has left you inspired and ready to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review us, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration on their entrepreneurial journey. Join us for more insights and stories. Until then, keep chasing your dreams and write your own Odyssey.